All right. Meeting is being live streamed.
You're all set, Norm.
Thank you, Becca. All right, we'll do the formalities now. So this is the Northborough Historic District Commission meeting. So I'm Norm Corbin. I'm the chair of the Northborough Historic District Commission. And this is an open meeting of the Northborough Historic District Commission. It's being conducted pursuant to State 2985 as amended, a bill to extend the certain COVID-related amendments to the open meeting law, as modified by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, permitting remote meetings and participation until March 31st, 2023, signed into law July 16th, 2022. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. The meeting is live streamed and recorded and will not have the option for public participation. To review the live meeting, it's on our agenda. The link is on our agenda. The whole purpose of this is in order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus. The town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Historic District Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows our commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to review the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. So we got that part of the story done. Well, let's make sure we're all the people on the committee are active and ready to go. So let me start. Just give us a thumbs up if you're here. Brian Smith.
Yes.
Amanda.
Here.
Leslie. You're muted. Guy. Bob.
Here.
Brian Swanson.
Here.
All right, and then myself are all here. So all the committee members are here. And today we have participants from people who have Community Preservation Act funding requests. And I'd like to start the meeting with that right from the get-go. So what we're going to start with is Amy Paretsky, because Amy Paretsky has a CPA request in for putting a multi-use trail on the aqueduct. So I'll leave it at that and turn it over to you, Amy.
Okay, thanks. I'm just gonna share my screen. Let's see. Just have to find the right document. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Very good.
All right. Hi, everybody. Like Norm said, my name is Amy Paretsky. I'm on the Planning Board and the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Myself and Ashley Davies were submitting a CPC application for a multi-use trail on the aqueduct. The goal of the multi-use trail project is to create a multi-use trail on the Northborough section of the aqueduct. It's 6.6 miles and currently open as a dirt path. This we feel will benefit all residents as it will be accessible to all and meet ADA accessibility requirements. It will also create a safe place for pedestrians to walk or bike safely away from cars and trucks. The initial phase of the project is a feasibility study, which is what we're asking for. The cost is $100,000. The timeline is 5 to 7 months to do the feasibility study. The feasibility study will provide the town with information on the necessary work and costs required to improve the trail with either stone dust or pavement. Since it's on the aqueduct, we actually asked if we had to do a feasibility study because we know where it's going, but the town recommends one. Once our 6.6 miles are complete, and when Berlin's 2-mile section is complete, the Northborough Trail will connect with the Mass Central Rail Trail. The Mass Central Rail Trail runs from Boston to Northampton. It will also connect us to Westboro. Westboro has completed a feasibility study, and they have a trail mapped out that goes down Lyman Street. It'll connect Northborough from Bartlett Street to Lake Chauncey, and then to Route 9, where Westboro is building into the Bewalt Trail, which is a trolley route that goes down Route 9. Northborough has 0.88 miles on the Bewalt Trail, so we're hoping that will be part of the feasibility study too. That way we can connect both the Central Mass Rail Trail and the Bewalt. CPA funds were approved by town meeting 2022 for the preliminary design to cross the Aqueduct Bridge. The preliminary design will take about 9 months to complete, and it's just starting up. So there will be no CPA funds requested for the bridge project this year. The two are eventually going to be tied together because the Aqueduct Trail that I'm talking about will cross the bridge. Multi-use trails are recognized regionally as being important infrastructure for alternative modes of transportation. The Northborough Multi-Use Trail is listed in the 2018 Central Mass Planning Organization Regional Pedestrian Plan. The Northborough Multi-Use Trail was voted as a top 10 project by the Master Plan Implementation Committee in September. The Multi-Use Trail has also received unanimous support by the Open Space Committee and the Planning Board. There was residential support during the master plan and complete street surveys. We have had limited public outreach because we don't want to drum up a lot of excitement if the feasibility comes back saying we can't do it, although we're pretty sure we can. We would appreciate your support. As Norm mentioned, the aqueduct is on the National Register of Historic Places. That's the end of my presentation. I do have pictures because I've mapped out the 6.6 miles. It's pretty flat. There are a couple of slopes, but the majority of it is a trail that's already in place. It's dirt and it's flat. If anybody has any questions, I'm open for any questions.
Any questions from the committee members?
The trail goes right by Bartlett Pond, right?
It does. The picture at the bottom is Bartlett Pond.
Okay.
And the aqueduct goes here. And then it crosses here to Bartlett Street over to where the warehouses are.
So what is the output of a feasibility study? What would the product be of that study?
We'd work with Lori, who does a lot of grant writing, to get, and Scott Charpentier, to see exactly what they want out of it. But we're going to get the information that will tell us what we'd have to do for work and the cost. And they'd probably lay out both if we did stone dust and if we did pavement. It would actually lay out the trail. We'd have a map, and they'd show if we needed any easements, street crossings. It would give suggestions. There's a railroad on Barefoot Road, and there are a couple different routes to get over it. So it would pretty
What are
much,
all the, oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. It would just
go
lay
ahead.
out the trail and how much it would cost and different routes.
How many street crossings are there?
I haven't counted. It crosses Bartlett Street, and then it crosses up around Main Street, and then it crosses East Main Street, and then it will go over the bridge. And from the bridge, it goes down is it Colburn Street?
Yep.
And then it will end up over by the senior center. And then it will cross Barefoot. And once it crosses Barefoot, it goes under this bridge, 290. And then it connects, it will cross here at Whitney Street. So I don't know if you kept count. I named all the streets
Okay.
and then it goes to Berlin. I don't
And
know
the
how many.
B-Walt, just one more question. The B-Walt side, that's on Route 9, right? So that would involve a Route 9.
Yeah, I don't know much
Crossing.
about the Walt. It's 0.88 miles. I don't know much about it, but I know we've been talking to Don Byrne from Westboro, and he's an expert on the B-Walt Trail. So, and he did the feasibility study with Westboro. So he has reached out to us a lot and would help us. He knows what we would be looking for.
Thank you. That was all I had. Thank you.
Yep.
I had a few questions. I'm surprised by the 6.6 miles because the aqueduct, when it goes, the aqueduct itself from the Berlin line, and it actually ends at the Marlboro line, is 4.4 miles. So I don't know where those other 2.2 miles are coming from.
I don't know. I didn't measure it. I got the numbers from Central Mass Planning.
Yeah,
not
it's not the right number for Northborough. It might be the 2 miles in Berlin would make it, that might make it that 6.6 miles, but it's 4.5 miles within the town.
Oh, okay. We've always been told 6.6, so that's
I
good because the shorter it is, the cheaper it is, and makes it more cheaper.
So I think you're safe with it. Because it's on the National Register, I think you may have to at some point notify the Mass Historical Commission because they kind of keep an eye on things that are listed on the National Register.
Okay.
I think it would be Michael Steinitz would be the contact. He's responsible for National Historic Register
Oh.
things. If you don't
Okay.
have his email address, I just think they need to be notified. I don't know what their involvement is, but I think that's part of it.
Okay.
Because it's on the National Register, you down the road, and not for your current $100,000 request, there might be some funding from the Mass Historical Commission on what they call the MPPF funding. The 50-50 match. The Aqueduct Trail, it's funny because the town doesn't own it, MWRA owns it, so there might be a quirk in the system. That's why I think you might be able to get some funding for that. And that can be up to $100,000 for a matching fund, so they could match 100 and the town would match 100. But I think that would be more once you decide what the best approach is. Trail. I'm very curious. I think the idea is fantastic, to be honest. I've walked it several times full length. It's going to be pricey because there are some parts that they're going to have some kind of railing, because if you go off the edge, you're going down 60, 80 feet. So
Right.
and the way to get the feasibility study is key because you can get the full appreciation of what it needs. But it's a lovely walk if you just walk it.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sure we'll reach out to you again once this gets going. Lori is a great source because she does a lot of grant writing and she knows a lot, I think, about historical too.
Yeah,
She knows
she's
a lot about a lot.
very good resource for us, that's for sure.
Right, and she's already talked to the MWRA about this. So she said she would be staff support for this, so it'll be really helpful.
Is this a separate project from the Aqueduct Bridge enhancement that we're doing?
I
Or
think
is
there
it all-
eventually might get combined. The Aqueduct Bridge did start already. They're already out for design. So it might happen at the same time. The bridge might happen first.
But this will happen, the bridge will have to happen before this is done, because otherwise you won't be able to cross the bridge.
Right. And depending on how much it costs, this trail might be done in phases. If they
Okay.
use stone dust, I think they could do the whole thing. But if they decide to pave it, they might have to do it in phases, like go to the Aqueduct Bridge and then, or go from the senior center to Berlin. They might break it up.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, though. The feasibility study will map it all out.
Any other questions for Amy? So I'd like to just have a go around in terms of, Amy's looking for us for a letter of support. So I'd like someone to make a proposal that we write them a letter of support and then second that motion. So could someone do that for us?
I
Let's-
move that we,
So moved, sorry.
All right, so I need a
Stop
second.
putting on mute.
second,
All right, so let me go around and just make sure we're all in agreement. So, Mr. Swanson,
Agreed.
Amanda, can you
I'm not
vote?
voting yet.
Not yet, okay. Leslie,
Aye.
Mr. Light,
aye,
Brian Smith,
aye,
and I'm also an aye. So Amy, we'll put together a letter of support for you. You should have it certainly by next week.
Thanks. One thing I didn't mention is we actually went to CPC and ARPA, just in case one or the other, decided. They might say, CPC, there are too many projects, but we'll give you ARPA money.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, we're hoping one of them will stick.
All right, take
All right,
care.
thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, part two is First Church Steeple, which is needs some significant love and care. So I've asked Gordon, are you going to be the one who Gordon, will you be the one that will review the project for us?
Yes, I can do it. I expected Dave Sherman to be online, but that's all right. I mean,
He's not here yet.
I wrote most of this, so with review from the committee and so forth. But yes, I can talk about it. All of you have a copy of it in front of you.
I have it online, and I did send it out to everybody.
Okay.
You should be familiar with the basics.
Let's see. Should it?
Sorry, I was just going to say I'm part of the committee that's sponsoring this, and so I'm going to be recusing myself from this.
All right, Brian, thank you for saying that. That makes sense.
And let's see, Norm, are you putting it up there, or how should?
I can put it up. Just give me a minute. So I got to find it and then share it. It's not a big deal. Let me just make sure I can
Okay.
find it.
Some reason I'm having trouble now getting the. Okay, well, I have my copy in front of me. So
Finding it. Found it. I don't know if I can do shared screen. It might actually work for me. That's always the challenge. This guy. All right, is that what we're looking at? Everybody see the application from First Parish Church?
yeah, and roll to page 2 if you could.
Yeah, I will. Here
Which
we
is where
are.
the title is, steeple repairs to replace rotted wood. So we have a problem with the steeple, the internals of the steeple, that there's a lot of deterioration, primarily from rotted wood. The Stark District Commission blessed the work that we did and approved of the work that we did 5 or 6 years ago on the exterior, which included adding new louvers and doing a lot of repainting, redoing the clock faces with the gold leaf, as well as the weather vane on the top. And there was a little bit of rotted wood on the exterior that was replaced. And that project was successful. And if you scroll down, there's photograph of the church from before and after that work. What called Figure 1 is before the work was done, the work that was done in 2017, the spring of 2017, and then Figure 2 shows afterwards. And so we're happy with what it looks like. And yeah, in addition to the clock faces, we have these louvers in place that didn't used to be there. If you look at figure 1, the wind and rain and snow and so forth used to just blow through there. And there's a bell up there in the open spaces that are now closed off by the louvers.
So the bell's in here. Got it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the rotting wood is a problem that on the interior predates all this. I mean, the church was finished in October of 1950, so it's 72 years old. And when you look at figure 3, you'll see this is a part of the cradle that supports the bell. Okay, now this wood is for years and years was exposed to the weather because you had the open, there were no louvers up there. And the woods continue to deteriorate. Figure 4 is another photograph of part of the cradle. It's impossible up there to get a picture of the whole thing. But this cradles, we call it, supports the bell. And because of this deteriorated condition, we've stopped ringing the bell. I mean, it's hard to say, when this wood would fail, but we were advised by an engineer just to stop using the bell for right now because this wood clearly needs to be replaced. If you scroll down to figure 5, this is on the inside below the deck where the bell is, we have this staircase. There's actually 2 of these that need replacement. They're just basically, if you look at them closely, the staircases are shoddy. They're certainly not public staircases, but workmen need to get up there. We have a couple of cell phone companies up there, but there are the people like me who go up there to check on things. And figure 6 shows you an underside of the deck. So it's looking up, and above this is the bell. And you can see there's just been years of rot. This has not resulted in the last few years. This has been going on, and it needs to be replaced. Figure 7 is the only photograph on the outside of the bell or outside of the tower, and you've got some rotted wood there where the roofing meets the wood, and there's some rotted wood that needs to be replaced in there. I should add, with the work that the CPC paid for in early 2017, I mean, we significantly reduced the leakage. I estimate by at least 90%. And basically, a regular rainstorm, you don't get any leakage, but when we get these nor'easters, there's leakage, but nothing like there used to be. And we have a couple wading pools in there that catch water that comes through. And back in the old days, before 2017, we'd get a foot of water in those things after a heavy storm. Now there's maybe an inch after a half a year. I mean, it's minimal amounts of water, but there's still water getting through. It continues to rot. Anyway, our proposal or request for money from the CPC is to do work on the interior to replace this rotted wood, the cradle that supports the bells, the roofing that's underneath it. And we have a proposal from Minuteman, which I've included, and that includes putting up scaffolding to remove the bell, take it out of the tower, go up there and take the cradle, the old cradle out, take the roofing and the wood that's underneath it out and replace it with new materials. Probably would not be wood. It would be a composite that won't rot. Re-roof it up there where the bell is, and then put the bell back in. Do any exterior wood that's a small amount, but replace that. And I forgot to mention, do the staircases on the inside. So when this work's all done, not really going to see very much from the outside, but we start using the bell again, so you'd hear the bell, and we'd have a bell tower that hopefully could last another 72 years. Anyway, so we're not looking to change the appearance very much, or at all, but we would be changing the acoustics because we're not using the bell right now because of the condition of the cradle, and we'd hopefully put an end to leakage even in the event of a nor'easter. I should add there's an engineering study included in this proposal. It's much smaller dollar amount, but we put it in there. I've been put in inflation factor for inflation 10% on the Minuteman proposal and 15% on the engineering proposal, because the engineering proposal is almost a year old. Anyway, I guess see if there's some questions.
Any questions from the members of the commission?
Anyway, we hope you support this. And we know that something on the tune of a couple $100,000 is a lot of money to ask for. But nevertheless, that's that's what it's going to take based on the proposal from Minuteman.
So I do have a couple questions, Gordon, and anybody can speak up at any time. I sent the note out a while back that I got confirmation that this kind of work, since you are listed on the state historical, the State Register of Historical Places, you can qualify for funding from the state. It's called the MPPF funding. The notification for next year's funding hasn't come out yet. It should come out soon. I thought it would come out in early November. It's a matching grant. It could be up to $100,000. I think that's something you really need to look into. As you go through this exercise this year for CPA funding, you will see there is a real shortage of money. And so supporting your efforts with the grants are going to be an important part, at least to go and find out about these grants. So that's one thing. The other question I have is urgency. Because we have, excuse me, we have to get an idea of prioritizing some of these requests for historical funding. Is this, granted, I understand the bell's not ringing, but what kind of urgency do we have in this for failure? Certainly, we don't want to wait too long because it makes things worse. But is this a must do in 2023 or possible do in 2023? We could do it in 2024. It's going to be something. I don't expect you to answer that question tonight, but I expect you'll have to answer that question on December 1st with the CPC Commission, because they're going to start to really look at hard numbers and try to figure out how to fund different projects.
Okay, well,
if you haven't looked at the CPC funding request for this year, the schools are looking to update the athletic facilities at Algonquin at the tune of $1.6 million. If that goes through, no other projects get funded. So
yeah.
just so keep that in mind. So look at the grant. I think we need to look at the grant offering and in priorities. Those are going to be two key topics that'll come up.
Okay, we'll do that.
I sent a personal email, so it's from myself, not from the commission, to Laurie and John Campbell, the chair, stating that, the fact that there's no bell ringing in the old church in the center of town in the historic district, that's really something we would try to, it's an important thing to bring back that New England feel to the town. So I just wanted them to get a feeling that, we're missing something now without that bell ringing. But I sent a note along those lines.
Yeah, well, that's the most notable change because of this, is not ringing the bell because of concerns with structural failure of the cradle. But I guess other than that, we've lived with this rotted wood for a while. As most of you know, rotted wood only gets worse with age. So we, part of that engineering study, which we may proceed with anyway, is to try to determine, how close to failure we are. And
And to be honest, and this is something you guys need to think about. You could phase this and get the engineering study funded right from the get-go to know what you're handling for possible funding for the following year. And sometimes I've seen that done for other CPA requests where they phase the project in over a couple of years to kind of balance the books. I'm just giving you a
Yeah.
hint you might hear on December 1st.
I realize we may have to do that. So,
The only other thing is I read through this afternoon the Minuteman company that you're recommending to work with, and they looking at the buildings that they've worked on, and I'm going to scroll through so if the people haven't seen it. It's a very impressive list. You've got the right people involved. It's just not Joe down the street who's a carpenter. You're dealing with somebody who's really specializes in these kinds of things. I'm going to scroll to show some pictures so we're all on the same page. At the end. So these are the buildings that they've worked on. The Malden Public Library, the Paul Revere House. Can't get much more historic than that. The Louise May Alcott House. I don't know the Bullfinch Church, but that's in Maynard.
the Bullfinch Church is in Lancaster.
Oh, is it in Lancaster?
Yeah. Mhm. It's the
Oh,
UU
excuse me, I'm reading it
Unitarian
wrong place. Thank
Universalist
you.
Church
Bullfinch
in
Church.
Lancaster. Yeah.
So, in terms of the company you've selected to work with, it's nice to see you pick the people who specialize in the restoration of historic properties. That was a good call on your part. And I'm gonna, if we put in a letter of support, which we'll vote on in 2 seconds, if we write that in, I'm definitely gonna highlight the fact that the company is the right company for this kind of an effort.
Yeah, we think the proposal is to do the job right and to do it thoroughly.
All right, let me stop sharing unless someone has a question. So if
Okay,
could
should
have-
should I go ahead and bow out at this point?
No, you can stay. You can stay till,
Okay.
we're gonna vote to make sure we all agree that we're gonna do a letter of support. So can someone propose supporting a letter of support for the First Church steeple?
I propose that we give a letter of support for the church steeple.
Anybody want to
Second.
second it for us? Did you second it, Leslie?
I did.
Thank you. You didn't come through quite right. All right, so we'll do the routine. Mr. Smith, do you agree?
I agree.
Bob,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
and I say aye. And Brian Swanson is stepped aside. He recused himself. So we got 4 okays and one who recused. So we will be putting together a letter of support for you, Gordon. You should see it sometime next week.
Okay, but we appreciate that.
And I'll send a copy directly to Town Hall so that they also have it with your files.
Okay, Norm, thank you.
All right, Gordon, thanks for coming through. Good luck with that
Okay,
project.
thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Good evening.
We're here.
Okay, good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
night.
Hi, Gordon.
Okay. Third project is, we've already gone through some of this already with the Historical Society regarding their interest in repairing the window sashes for all the windows at the Historical Society building. So Mike, we all know Mike. Why don't you give us an update on some of your findings since our last meeting?
I'll start by addressing some of the concerns that was raised last month regarding the energy efficiency codes. And I did, after the last meeting, I connected with the town building inspector and also another local architect, and both of them concurred that the energy efficiency codes don't really apply in this instance. So I mentioned that because if there is if the vote doesn't go our way because of that, I think it's worth mentioning that both the building inspector and a local architect determined that those energy efficiency codes don't apply. But other than that, we are talking about pretty much the same proposal as we were discussing last month. And if you want, Norm, and give me access, I can bring the proposal up if that's necessary. Or
Yeah, you can, if you can bring it up, or I can bring it up.
yeah, I think you have to allow me to share the screen, right? Oh, I can. Okay. Right. Am I looking at your screen or?
You should be looking at your own screen. I'm out of the pic, I'm done sharing screen, so I'm out of the picture for that.
Okay.
So if you click on share screen, it should show you all the different screens you have open on your computer.
Okay.
So we're looking now at your files, looking at,
Okay. Can you see that?
yep.
Okay. So, I mean, here's the application.
It's not, the application's not open. What I'm looking at is your
Oh.
data, your files.
Oh,
It's a list of all the proposals and drafts.
Mike,
Yeah.
I think you need to share your whole desktop instead of just one. I think you just shared one window.
uh,
Because I can bring it up really quick.
okay. I thought I could do this.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, but like everything else, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay. Are you gonna do it or do you want me to try again?
I'm gonna do it.
Okay,
I'm almost there.
fair enough.
Almost there. See if this is gonna work.
So, what we're requesting is, I
Okay,
think it's
is that, do I have the right thing there, Mike?
yes,
all
you
right.
do. Yeah. So we're requesting $71,000. This is based on an estimate we got from I can't remember her name now. A company, Heartwood Window Restoration, and they have done a lot of work in this arena regarding restoring windows. And I guess the big example of their quality of the work is they did 140 some odd windows over at the Lyman Estate in Waltham. And, that project was really well regarded. The reports all came back as a job well done. So similar windows to what we have. Heartwood removed the windows. We're sort of following the same process. Remove the windows, take them to their shop, take all the old putty out, remove the old paint on the wood, repair the wood as necessary, and then add a linseed oil to condition the wood, and then repaint, reglaze, put the windows back, and bring them back, install them back into the building. And so that, in a nutshell, is what they're planning on doing. And we based our number on they provided us a unit cost for each size of window that we have. And so it's just a number, a multiplication of taking the number of windows that we have multiplied by the unit cost. We did add in a couple of adders in case some glass broke, and some overnights because the company is in the western part of the state, and they may be necessary for a couple of overnights for some of their crew. And so that's basically where we came up with the number. If you want to scroll down, Norm,
Yep. You can say
I-
when.
yeah, just keep going, I think. Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. Yeah, here's how it breaks down. If up one a little bit. Just
All
for
right.
the numbers there. I mean, that's pretty much how it breaks down. They're going to add additional weather stripping. And then we had an allowance for some temporary panels. As they take the glass out, the windows out, they'll put some temporary panels to protect the inside of the building from weather. So if you want to scroll down, we can maybe take a look at some of the, I think one of the concerns I'm hearing is that the urgency factor, and maybe we can talk about that, or I can talk about it a little bit. If you go down to the pictures, we can talk about this. Well, this is where I would add your letter, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're on the historic register of historic places. Yeah, you could scroll down a little bit. So this is some of the close-ups of some of the pictures of the windows. Some of the glass is broken. This is an inside photo looking out on School Street. The sash, the paint is gone. If you get really close, you can see on the side there's some dry rot there. I mean, the windows still function, but this work hasn't been done that I can recall, and so I don't know exactly how long these windows have been in this condition, but we're looking to kind of do this work to keep them in reasonably good shape for the next however many years. And so if you want to go down a little bit, there's a couple more examples of it. This is an outside view, and the wooden windows on the outside, obviously the paint is spalling. Some of that wood has got some rot and dry rot. Some of the window caulking on the windows that are going across the muttons, that caulk has started to crack, and some of it is spalled off. So it's only a matter of time until all the windows are, a lot of the caulk is gone, and the windows basically won't be weather tight. And then the bottom photo shows probably the worst, if not one of the worst. It's a window, and the side of the window, the enclosure, is pretty rotten on this one. And that's not to say that all of the windows look like this, but they're getting to that point. So
But my understanding, Mike, is the project is to work on the windows. Is it also going to include repairing the inside frame like this?
Well, no, not on this project right now. We're taking the windows step by step, and the first step is to kind of get the windows in shape, and the next step would be to start doing what you're talking about, is dealing with the jams, addressing, whether we're going to continue storm windows on the outside or move them to the inside. So all of those have yet to be fully determined, but we thought we would start with the windows, since they're exposed to the weather, and there's a lot of caulking that's cracking and falling off just from normal winters and summer, the freeze thaw cycle. So
I'll give you a heads up, because I went to Leslie wasn't able to make the first CPC committee meeting where they pretty much just handed this information out. And I think you're going to have to address some of these questions that came up, and I couldn't answer them. I shouldn't answer them because they're questions for you.
yeah,
But it's like, why not, if that's the case, why not do the window complete rather than the windows now and then remove, it seems, you're gonna have some questions about the approach.
Well,
Heads
the
up, I
answer
want-
is pretty simple. It's money. We
Well-
did have an estimate from a company called Cleary and Son. And they provided us an estimate. It was over 250,000 to do the whole thing.
I just all I want to do is get you in the frame of mind that those are the kinds of questions I would expect
Mhm.
from them.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for the heads up.
Heads up. And I also see the storm window is a relatively new storm window, maybe 20 years old, but it's actually,
Yeah.
I thought it was a wooden one. It's
No,
it's an aluminum framed storm window, so that's a good thing.
I think it's, yeah, I don't think I think it's vinyl,
Oh, maybe.
but they do help, yeah,
Yeah, they help, especially for energy efficiency, so that's good.
yeah.
Um,
So that, whether we continue with those storm windows or whether we replace those with inside windows, that's all good questions. We have reached out to a couple of other sources of funding. The one is called the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and we have a proposal that is probably 90% done along their feasible and technical assistance. And, you know, it's a one-to-one match. So we're looking, if we're successful there, to hire a engineering or architectural firm to help look at what's the best way to go here. But in the meantime, we thought we would, you know, start the process of getting the windows up to speed.
I'm glad you brought up the funding because that's a real critical one right now. So is the Cultural Council request for the window sashes?
No, that's, at this point, we're asking them, we're looking at just doing the feasibility and technical assistance grant to sort of figure out what's the right. Now, there is a capital grant also they're offering, and that can go up to, let's see, I think the capital grants can go up to $200,000. Again, the issue is with all these grants is the one-to-one match.
Correct.
You know, we just don't have
No, the
100,000.
CPA funding can be that other match. It can be, if it's a
Okay.
$200,000 project, CPA funding can be 100,000, and you can match, at least I know for the state grants, then you match the other 100,000 with the state grant. So CPA funding is part of can be part of that original.
Yeah, and that would work out fantastic, but I mean, we got to get the grant kind of approved.
It's a chicken and egg thing. What I've seen, but
Yeah.
if you read the one I know, the one I'm most familiar with is the MPPF grant.
Yeah,
And that grant is set up for reimbursable funds. So you have to request, if it's a $200,000 project, you have to request $200,000 for CPA funding. And then when the project is done, then you request to get $100,000 back from the state, and that goes back into the pool for CPA funding for future projects. So you don't have to have the grant in hand for CPA request. You just, that's how it works.
well, we are pursuing other grant sources to try to do exactly what you're talking about, so.
And then my question is, have you looked, it's not out yet, but I highly recommend that when the MPPF announcement comes out, that you look very hard
Now,
at that. Because
it-
you've got everything,
Is
you're on
that,
the national register, you're on the state register and the national register, so that's a big thumbs up for a project like this.
now, is that the Preservation Mass Group? That-
No, this is the Massachusetts Historical Commission. It's a totally
Okay,
different.
from the commission. Okay.
And I know you've looked into Preservation Mass. Those are the $10,000 max
Right.
for exterior painting and things like that.
Yeah.
You fall under that.
We just submitted a letter of interest to the Mass Historical Commission earlier this week. Giving them a heads up that we're interested in getting the approval to bid, or not to bid, but to submit an application for their survey and planning grants, which,
Right.
you know, we're hoping that if we don't get the technical feasibility grant from the Mass Cultural Council, that we could get it perhaps through the Mass Historical Commission, but you know, these are all one-to-one matches, so you have to have some skin in the game before they give you the, and they're reimbursed money, so you know, you essentially pay for it up front and then get reimbursed.
That's correct.
So we don't have a whole lot, the point is, we don't have a whole lot of cash sitting around to do a $200,000 window restoration.
You don't need the cash because you can use CPA as your cash bank.
Okay, well,
And the
we're trying to
survey,
break this up into sort of smaller chunks so that we don't, I mean, I'm hearing that money is tight. So asking for 200,000 versus
Yeah,
whatever,
but-
70,000.
so, but if it's a $200,000 project, you can request that it's done over multiples of years,
Okay,
break up into several tasks. They do that routinely. They've done that with a lighting program on a ball field. They've done that with a variety of things. Because a lot of these projects don't last 3-6 months. They might overlap in a couple of years. The survey and planning grant cycle, I'd be very interested if you get something from them, because that won't fund repair of the, windows.
no,
Whereas the MPPF is funding for the repair of the windows.
well, yeah, and we were talking about getting some technical assistance from, you know, the right group that could look at our windows and tell us for things related to, you know, should we go with inside storms or outside storms, or, you know, just technical things related to repair and replacement, and some direction on, you know, what kind of materials we should be doing and how we should do it. So that was the thought process.
Have you considered ARPA funding for these windows?
We submitted a grant for ARPA for expanding the archive in the back of the building. So that's already been submitted. You know, obviously we
Okay,
don't know if that's
Okay,
going to happen, but I mean, this is one of probably 3 major restoration projects that we have in mind. The expansion of the archive building is 1, restoration of the windows is 2, and then the third is to repair and restore the meeting room. And, you know, the ceilings are kind of falling down, the walls, the plaster on the walls are falling down, and that we're trying to upgrade that so that it's more user-friendly when it comes to speakers, because we have a speaker program that we do on Friday nights, and we'd like to make it a lot more amenable for speakers when they come. That you know, the projector is all kind of
but that has nothing to do with this request for CPA. So we'll stay on the topic of CPA request for the sashes. I'd like to know, that kind of dominated the conversation here, and I apologize for that. I'd like to know what other commission members questions they might have.
I don't have anything in addition to what you've already asked, Norm.
I have nothing, Norm.
Okay.
Nothing
Um,
more.
So the 2 things I had on my list, just Mike, so we're all on the same page. The two topics I had on my list were for follow-up with the Historical Society was additional funding, because as written now, you don't have any funding requests put in any grant information in your request. Where is it under grants? Funds. At the present time, no additional funding, right here. So I think you need to send a letter in to the CPC that you are addressing potential other grant fundings. If you haven't done that, I think that needs to be put in there. And then, of course, it's, as you saw, the same questions we had to ask about the steeple is not the priority, but the urgency of the project, and you address that. So those are the 2 going into tonight's meeting that I really wanted to get an expansion on. And you did that, so that's been very helpful. The other comment I'd like to make is, you know, the society's been doing a wonderful job getting the right people to do the work. They found the right vendor to do the painting. They found a very unique vendor to do all those shutters, historical restoration shutters. And the one that you found for this window work, I mean, you found the right company to do the work, and I'm very impressed that you're finding these people because they are not easy to find. It's easy to find people who will do new windows, but restoration's a different story. So I commend the society for the kind of contractors you find for this type of work. It's really appreciated.
Sure.
So without any further questions, I'm going to stop the sharing, unless you had something, Mike, you wanted to add from the.
No, that's pretty much it.
So I'm looking for, we're looking for a letter of support to support the window restoration project at the Historical Society meeting. So I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you, Leslie. Who's going to second that?
Second,
All right. I'll do the roll call vote, and we'll start with Mr. Smith.
accepted. I mean,
Yeah, accepted works.
worked.
Bob,
Yes,
Leslie,
Yes.
Amanda. Nope, I keep thinking of you. We're going to get you online. Brian.
Yes,
And myself is yes. So you should see a letter of support for this project
Thank you.
in next week or so.
Thanks a lot
Okay,
very much.
very good. Good luck with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
thanks,
Okay,
Mike.
we'll see you later. I'm gonna bug out. I don't.
You can bug out. You can go. You can just listen to us by going to the regular
Oh, yeah, right.
live streaming, whatever you prefer. It doesn't matter.
Fair
Mike.
enough. Yep.
Thanks for joining us, Rick.
Yep, thank you.
All right. So we'll skip over to the request we're involved with. So the Gale Library sign, it's a $5,000 request that we put in for the sign. I think I mentioned it last time, the prices are shot up. So I put the request in, and I also, it's going in with myself and Jennifer, the director of the library. So I'm not, we're gonna have to go over priorities pretty soon, but we did put that one in. And we'll see how that lands in the priority listing. And the other one, which I'll bring up to make sure, again, we're all on the same page, and so people are watching this down the road. If I can do a shared screen, find the one I want. It's not there, so I gotta pull it up. Got it. Now we'll try the shared screen. Yep. Can you see the request we put in for the historic reserves account?
Yep.
Everybody's screen? So what we're putting in, what I put in for that, we mentioned it last meeting, but right here, it's, we're requesting $350,000 for over the next 3 years for a total of just over $1 million. They don't put, CPA funding isn't scheduled that way. So we would have to request the 350 for the next 3 years. The reason I'm doing this is so there's an expectation that we will be doing this for the next 3 years, so we don't be blind.
Yeah.
And then what we did is I just put a list of potential projects that are coming up, and I'd say like the next 5 years, and I got rough numbers that are pie in the sky maybe, but it's just to recognize there are some significant projects that could, not necessarily they will, but they could pop up. So I said, you know, we'll know a lot more about White Cliffs come January, but right now there may be some need for future funding from the town on CPA funding. So, you know, could be in excess of $500,000. It could be a lot less. It could be a lot more. But I just want, again, that recognition that it's a big unknown for us. The Aqueduct Bridge walkway over the Assabet River, that could be a huge project. And a part of it is going to be restoration of the bridge. If it's the new surface they put on or the new railings, that could be a restoration project. So that could actually come back to us and use historic money. A lot of what they're looking at is trails money, but they may need to use historic money for actually restoring the bridge so it can be pedestrian friendly. We just saw tonight the steeple repairs, 250,000 for the Unitarian First Church steeple. The Howard Street Cemetery down the road, and that could be closer to 5 years away, but there's a large section of the Howard Street Cemetery that has a lot of broken stones, bent over stones that need to be reset and repaired and cleaned. And that could easily be over 200,000. Historical Society, they brought the one to the table right now, which is the part where they want to do the windows. But as Mike was saying, they've got other projects in the pipeline now, and they're trying to get other grants for it, but they may have to supplement some of those grants with CPA funding. So if they do the rest of parts of the restoration of the meeting room could be part of this, parts of the upgrade of their archives could be part of this, because there's a big push to Mass Historical Commission and others have told us several times that there's a real push to preserve documents, maps, and pictures, and paintings. That's what's all in the archive. So there could be a real need for some funding to help them upgrade the archives. And as the last meeting we were at, Tom Reed mentioned here at the Trinity Church would like to put access into and handicapped access into multiple floors in the back of the church. So that would be an elevator. That's not going to go cheap. So then I just mentioned again, historic documents. We've only inventoried buildings, historic asset inventories to buildings up to 1910. Ideally, we would be, the state would like us to actually inventory historical buildings that's anything over than 50 years. So that brings us we have no information on buildings from 1910 to about 1975. So that's a loose end that we haven't addressed yet. If you remember, Mike DeShano did a great job looking up information on the archaeological sites that we have in town. And what we have never had was an archaeological survey of the town, which would be very beneficial for us. I regret we hadn't done this in the past because some of the new buildings and warehouses going up on Bartlett Street were actually on virgin land. And I bet when they took the hill down and put the buildings up, there was probably a lot of artifacts from Native American times that were just destroyed. So there's also maybe some funding for some town-owned buildings down the road that need to be upgraded. You could see if the high school, which is currently the town hall, becomes something else, that might be a historic building that needs some restoration. So the numbers don't add up to anything like $1 million. It's actually quite a bit more than that. But I'm just trying to fly the flag that, look, we just put this historical preservation plan together. We know what the big ticket items coming down the pike are. Let's see if we can get some money in our bank account, the historic reserves, to be ready for them and not just be surprised at the last minute. Anyway, so that's the spiel for that. And of course, many of these could also have matching grant funds, which would be an important thing to get some grant funding for this. Any questions on that request?
Just a clarification. Oh, sorry.
Does it-
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Brian.
Bob. All right. Does having money in the bank, as you say, affect the decision process at all, or is it still go through us and then the CPC the same way as it does now?
It goes, Brian, that's a good question. You're putting the money aside, but we're not spending it. So Leslie, make sure I'm saying this right, because you've been on the CPC longer than I ever was. We request the money that goes into the reserve account, but when we take the money out of the reserve account, we have to request it for a specific need. So you're kind of putting in the bank for future use, but and
And I don't know if it has to go back to town meeting. I think it does. I mean, the
Yeah, it does. It
conservation,
absolutely has to go back to town meeting when we actually,
okay,
so it goes to town meeting to put it in the account.
and then to
when you
use it,
go to
okay.
Spend it, you gotta go back to town meeting and say what you're spending it on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
Yeah,
nothing
it's a
is
little different.
done.
The open space reserve is a little different because we put it in the conservation fund, but yes, okay.
Correct.
Thanks for-
Yeah, we don't have that. The open space has a reserve and also there's something set up for housing, but we don't have anything like that for historic.
Okay, all right, thanks. Yeah, I didn't think so.
Now,
Good
just for
question,
clarification,
Brian. Mike,
Oh.
Bob.
yeah, for clarification, you listed the church steeple for
Yep.
200,000, and that's being proposed. So that's not going to cause any confusion, is it? Because that's being proposed separately, and if it gets approved, then it would be taken off our list as a reserve.
Correct. That's why I was asking them, the money's really tight this year, and that's why I've asked all three people that we spoke to recognize you need grants. Because if we put $200,000 to the steeple, so now we can only put maybe $100,000 into the bank, we're never gonna get to the $1 million we're gonna need 3-4 years from now. And I don't know if we're gonna get that kind of money. I'm pushing the buttons because I wanna have the conversation about how do we get the money for these future projects. Some of them are gonna come up like the steeple. I think they're gonna be critical. Some of them, like the cemetery, we'd like to have it done in 5 years, but to be frank, if it's 10 years, those stones will still be there. You know, but I think we just need to recognize we get some big projects coming down the pike. I don't want to be in a situation like they just got now, which is a $1.6 million request that caught them a little by surprise. I don't know, Leslie, did the CPC have an idea that that was coming in until the paperwork was done?
I wasn't aware of it, so yeah.
And that's kind of, I just want them to know, we're planning ahead. We have some expectations. How do we handle this going down the pipe, going down the road?
Yeah, I'm sure the town knew about it, but I wasn't aware until pretty recently.
Yeah, but I don't know if they knew about it 2 years ago. They might have known about it 6 months ago.
Right.
I'm trying to show them what we're going to need 5 years from now. So it's kind of a different flow of planning. So this is what's in the system. Any other questions? All right. Now the hard part. I'm gonna stop my sharing because that's the only way I know how to do this. And now I'm going to find something I want to show you that's handwritten. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Handwritten? All right. We are always asked every year to prioritize the different requests for historic funding. It helps the people that are on the CPC committee that aren't familiar with historic projects to help them make decisions when they do the financial juggling on the last night. There's only one number one priority right now. We have to pay $188,000 for the White Cliffs bond. That's given. So that's number one. After that, we've got historic reserves request, steeple request, society windows, the library marker. Now the aqueduct trail for $100,000 is coming out of the conservation funds. They're not asking for historic funding at this point. So we really won't prioritize that at all. If they ever come back for historic funding, then they'll be put down to the list. So we don't rank them. So, and that's also why I was asking for the steeple and historical society to give me an idea, how long can they wait? What's the time frame where they gotta have a problem? 2 years away, didn't quite get the answers I was hoping for, but we need to come up with a priority listing for the reserves, the steeple, the windows, and the library marker. So I'm looking for some thoughts, some opinions or ideas. How do we rank these?
I think how you've ranked them look good, Norm. You know, the library marker, it's something we'd like to have, but nobody's going to notice if it's not there. The steeple seems like it might be more pressing than the windows. I know the windows didn't look great, but they weren't mentioning, water seepage or anything. I like how you've got it.
Well, I ranked them by dollar value. Didn't rank them by priority.
I think part of it comes down to, do we rank tangible requests ahead of the reserve account? Do we say, okay, we don't want to support specific projects because we want to put money aside for future projects when we have projects right in front of us right now? So I'm kind of struggling with that. I like the idea of a reserve, but when I see the other things that are tangible, things that are actually, some of them are even on that list that we would be using the reserves for. That's what I struggle with.
It's not easy. Told you it wasn't going to be easy.
And the library marker, yeah, it's not important, but it's so tiny that it's going to pass kind of no matter what. So I would keep that on there because it's those tiny ones always pass because they are just so small. That's all I got.
Mr. Swanson, just I know you're going to have some bias, but I still like your opinion on some of the others.
All right. I mean, I think the question Leslie brought up about reserves being a higher priority than some components that we say we would take from the reserves. It is kind of gets confusing.
Kind of one of the drivers, at least in my logic for the historic reserves, is my big unknown about what White Cliffs will need in the future from the town. And it may be all cut and dry and clear come April, but right now it's unknown. And to be honest, all of the priorities, and if you look at all of the conditions of the different, the steeple in the windows, in my mind, White Cliffs is number one. So if I had to change, if we knew what we were doing with White Cliffs in terms of funding and what we needed right now, in my mind, for me, it would be, okay, White Cliffs is number one. You two have to sit and wait.
Well, we have no choice on White Cliffs. It's a bond. That's
No,
non-negotiable.
not that one. I'm talking about future funding.
Okay.
Restoration.
Got
I'm
it,
so
okay.
glad you made that clear to me, Leslie. Good. Yeah, it's not the bond money. It's, does somebody come back and say, yeah, we'll do all of these things, but we want you to pick up the tab for restoring the windows, or we want you to pick up the tab for something else about the building to get more skin in the game for the town. I would hope they wouldn't, but if they do, I don't want to get in a situation where we don't have the money, so we can't do anything. So, when I look at restoration projects in town, my biased opinion is White Cliffs restoration is number one. It beats everything else. And if I had a number about for that, I'd put it in. That's kind of why that's kind of why the 350 is there. It's more driven by White Cliffs and the fact that the other things are coming down the pipe.
Norm, what is the parenthetic comment on Aqueduct Trail?
Well, we
No,
can't
what?
rank it. We can't rank it. What are you looking for the question?
It says no rank, I think.
Oh, is that what
Yeah.
it is? No rank? Okay.
Yeah, I said, no, we don't rank it. I just wanted to let you know because it's not using historic funding at this point. It's using something from trails. Bob, you got a solve for us?
No, it looks good. I guess I wouldn't mind moving the library marker up because it's such a small amount. It's a win. That's my only point. If you put it lower priority, it may never happen.
Well, there's usually some, I mean, the CPC is going to make some really tough decisions this year. There's a lot of projects that are good projects coming down the pike. And I know you know, Leslie and Millie are gonna have some tough decisions to make. So just because we rank them different doesn't mean it won't get funded or the like.
Okay,
And I can
that was
see,
it.
I can
Yeah,
see
that
the
was my-
CPC juggling some of these numbers around too, like, well, we can't give you 350 for the reserves, but we can do something here because we think that this is a more important thing. You know, you have to go into the CPC with an open mind and a flexibility with your request.
Well, other than that, the priority looks fine. I think the idea of the steeple being a potential hazard, plus the fact that it is in the historical district and they're not able to ring the bell, I think is something important.
I'd like to see them be able to get it's between around $75,000 to $100,000 from the state to help support them. And I don't know if you all know that, but there is an issue regarding separation of church and state for some of these kinds of fundings. And I looked it up and I talked to some people and I called the Mass Historical Commission. I contacted them and they said, no problem. The steeple in terms of, getting grant funding for it. Fits all the criteria. So some of these numbers could be adjusted. I'd like the Historical Society to make that number smaller by getting some grants. So there's some opportunities here for them to step to the plate and find some opportunities to support this.
I mean, the historic reserves number is nagging at me because there's no way, there's some years where you could say, well, these things might all get approved. They're not going to. So if we want the historic reserves, then the other things are all going to have to wait. Maybe the library market, like we said, that's so tiny, but the steeple and the windows are going to go. So to be honest with you, my thinking is we've got $275,000 of tangible requests. We want a reserve of 350. I would tend to, this is bold, or not bold, it's drastic, is to reduce the historic reserve to the balance of that to make it 75 instead of 350. Since we have some big ticket items, I mean, I get that we would do the reserves if we didn't have anything. We'd say, okay, we don't have any big projects this year, but we want to be prepared for big projects that are coming down. But to go in with a big request like that for reserves, when we have big projects that we're now writing letters of support for, and we know that it's going to be a tough year CPC wise or CPA funding wise, I think coming in with this doesn't make sense. That's just my line of thinking.
But if the steeple was $75,000 less and the historic windows was $35,000 less, that essentially that grant money would help us put more money into the historic reserves.
We're not going to know that by the time. How long is the grant cycle?
Yeah, you're right. You are right on that account. The timing isn't quite right. It's a good concept, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. In theory, it could work out, but yeah, it's just. Anyway, that's.
All right. No,
That's
this is
thinking.
what I wanted to have the conversation on because
Norm, can I ask a question?
you can ask anything you want, Julianne.
So would it be appealing if you asked for a range of money with the historic reserves? If you
can't do that. The request is specific during the deliberation, during the meetings, you can change it and say, okay. I mean, open space, we usually come in with a big number. If we don't have big projects, we come in with a big number and then we'll say, okay, well, how about if we change that to, 100,000 or 50,000 or so it can,
I see.
you
Okay.
can't just go in with a range. It has to be a specific request that has to be voted because they have to vote on it. It has to be a specific dollar amount that they vote on.
But there's always a level of negotiation through the public hearing process.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It may get adjusted, but I don't think you can go in with the request being a range. I think the request has to be specific.
Yep.
And then it may get modified. That's my recollection of the process. I could be wrong that it's not allowed, but
No,
ultimately it's good.
I remember where there's been taught where things have gone to a multi-phase project to balance the numbers, multi-year
Yeah,
project.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Was the steeple possibly able to be done in 2 years?
Their plan was to have it done in like 8 months.
Okay, so the 200 is fixed. We can't really
Well,
change
no,
that.
that's why we're pushing them. That's why I'm encouraging them to get a grant for between $75,000 to $100,000 to reduce that number.
But we can't reduce it now until they get the grant.
Correct. What would happen is the money would go, I don't remember what they did for the common, Leslie, but they paid for it out of CPA funding and then they got a grant reimbursement. And that
Yeah,
goes
and it goes back
goes
into
back.
the,
general fund or something. So
yeah.
So
I
we
mean-
have to, we can't reduce that 200,000 based on anticipation of a grant. We have to leave it in there.
Unless we
Yeah.
have a strong enough commitment or strong enough level of confidence. And they can say, okay, well, we're putting it on you. We feel confident that you can get $75,000. So we're only going to grant you
Mhm.
120, we're only gonna allow you 125, so you can do it that way. But it's risky. It puts the project at risk if they can't get it.
right.
But that's certainly something that can be done. And maybe, yeah, that might be the request, what's requested.
But I know for the Mass Historic Commission grants, the grant would have to go in for the 200K, for example, for the steeple, because they have to, because the project has to be paid for, and then it gets reimbursed. So you kind of have to keep that number in the box. Yeah,
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. you have to get. Well, going into this, I knew the historic reserves is a big dollar number, and my point was to demonstrate that there's some big ticket items coming down the road. I'm expecting that the Community Preservation Committee will ask us to consider a lower number for that. I don't know what that number is right now. I guess I'd like to wait until probably in the January, February timeframe when things start to settle down. They come back to us and say it's not 350. It has to be a smaller number. Regarding the steeple, don't like to see that kind of wood rot that's holding up a bell that weighs God knows how much. So when I look at priorities, I'm leaning toward the steeple being an important priority, maybe more so than the 250 for the historic reserves. The Historic Society windows, I think if they demonstrated, as you said, Amanda, severe leakage, damage, a lot of problems inside the building. This year, it's hard for me to consider justifying it as something that could not be delayed a year or two. In the library marker, you can keep it in and see if the money pops loose, but from a political point, it's almost like we should sacrifice it to show where, look, we know it's important. The marker is not critical. So considering that, what would we like to do?
I mean, I've already put my thoughts out there, so
Alright.
I'm all set.
Well, this is, see if I can get it right, going this way. I think the steeple has to be another number one priority because it could be damaging. Really want to encourage them to look for grant funding to help it. I put the historic reserves, in my mind, I'm thinking as a number two priority, where that dollar value will be adjusted as needed. So it's 350 on the request, see what CPC can do for us when they start to juggle the numbers. I think historic windows can be delayed. I just don't see I'm gonna get a lot of grief for this, but I just don't see the emergency situation for it, which is good. They're planning ahead. I think that's great. And if they can hold off a couple of years, I just think that's,
We agreed to support them, though.
yes, we've agreed it's a good program and it's a good project and they got the right, so the letter of support supports the project. Now we're dealing with the priorities of those projects. In my mind, they're two totally different things, totally different. And I want to make it clear, there's none of those projects were wrong. in the sense that somebody came in and said, we said, no, you can't, there's no funding for that in this program. That's not gonna happen. They're all legitimate projects. It's just a timing and a priority issue. So I would tend to go with the historic windows as number 3, and I would put the library marker as number 3. At least that's what I'm thinking, and I'd like to get an idea of if that's a problem from us.
I'm sorry, you said library marker number 3?
Yeah, so I have, number 1 priority is the bond, White Cliffs bond. Number 2 is, excuse me, in the same priority level is the steeple. Those are our 2 number 1 priorities. Followed by the historic reserves. And then the last number 3 priorities are the Historical Society windows and the library marker. Just because we set these priorities, they are not cast in stone. I think the CPC, since they're holding the balancing the books and the numbers, they can see things differently. But this is what we think at this point. But I don't want to write these down unless we're in agreement.
So let me just get the White Cliffs bond and the steeple would both be number 1.
Yes,
The reserves would be number 2,
yes,
and the windows and the library marker are number 3.
that's what I'm thinking, and I think it's in line with what we were discussing. And I know the library marker is small pennies, and it might go through, but I think we have to recognize that there really is no sense of urgency for that marker. As much as
I can't, so this, again, just hear me out, and maybe I've already said this, I'm gonna say, it seems silly to me that if we're supportive of the windows being done, it maybe not now, in a year or 2, we're asking for money to be set aside for a future project. So we're asking them to put aside a tangible project for the future that we're going to use that money for. So it feels like we're putting money in the piggy bank for something we know we're going to spend, when why not just do it now?
Because if somebody comes back with the White Cliffs and we have to put money in for White Cliffs and the bank says 0, we're kind of in trouble. That's where that's which a lot of this is driven by future costs associated with White Cliffs. It could be 0, could be $1 million. I don't know. But if I don't have anything in that account and somebody says, well, we need to get some money, unless there's some opera money back coming around a couple of years from now, that's my biggest concern.
And I guess I would put the steeple on the same level with the windows. If that's the case.
Well, other than the steeple looks like it's in dire straits, I would agree with you. But, we're trying to be a democracy here, so please don't let me.
Yeah, no, I'm just sort of thinking it through. Just one more quick question, and I guess we should have asked them when they were here. What kind of fundraising does, let's say, steeple doesn't get done, or the windows don't get, I shouldn't say done, they don't get approved? Is there any chance they'll still get done? Do they have other funding sources, fundraising in the community, or their own, the church community?
Those are good questions. The steeple project is estimated to be $250,000, and somehow the congregation was kicking in 50 grand. I don't know where it was coming from. The Historical Society has no pockets, deep pockets, or funny money that they could pull outside. They'd have to run some kind of a fundraiser or something. I don't know if it's being considered.
Okay, I am officially done with any input. Thanks.
Well, you're going to have a lot more input come December 1st. So, considering Leslie's input, do we want to make some adjustments?
I think Leslie makes sense. Of course, but
So what would you think, Brian? Confirming what Leslie said for me.
I'd kind of say you'd have to reduce the reserves to a lower priority and put it at 100 or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we already put it at a number 2 priority.
I'm just saying, thinking that, the Historical Society windows are a real project that needs to be done.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's going to be a lot of questions about that project from the CPC committee, from my feeling for the meeting I was at 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of questions they're going to be asking about that project. And it's, in terms of dollar value, it's on the high side, but it's not a crazy number, 71K. And if they can get some funding for it and drop it down to 35K or 40K, that's a big plus. That's why, like I said, that's why I've been pushing them to look at grants for the window project. All right, so how about I do this? White Cliffs bond #1, steeple number is also a #1 priority. We can move Historic Society windows. Like, to me, it's still a #3. It'd be a lower ranking. The historic reserves, I can put that in. So I'm just ranking them 1, 2, and 3, and we can have multiple 1s and multiple 2s and multiple 3s. So the historic reserve could be, well, it's right now it's still #2, but we could say the 350 number, if necessary, could be significantly lower. So it kind of puts the burden on the CPC committee to help figure out how to do the funding and how to, if we got to take 350 and make it a smaller number, that's what they get challenged to do.
Or they could say
You're-
you've got
you're a
tangible projects that we're gonna support and not, not do anything for the reserves too. I mean, or any of these things could get rejected or approved.
Right. So White Cliffs bond, 188K, #1. Steeple, 200K. But when I'm going to put the email out with the priorities, I'm going to make comments. I'm going to say Steeple's 200K, but they need to look for funding, just so that there was a recognition that something might be out there to help these projects. Then I'll still put historic reserves as #2, but we anticipate that the number won't be 350. It might be lower as needed. I mean, Leslie, in the end, Leslie, you're the one who's gonna be making these calls when they negotiate the dollar values on the last day. So you're in control of that. Historic windows, I think, is #3. In the library marker, I think is still #3. So is that? I still have the historic reserves in front of the windows. Is that the thing that, Leslie, you would prefer that I don't do? We don't do? You want the windows in front of a priority over the reserves?
I mean, again, to me, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I see your point about White Cliffs. But I'm looking at the tangible stuff and thinking that those should be higher. But again,
I agree with Leslie.
I'm open to everybody else's opinion at this point. I always am, but I'm deferring to everybody else's opinion at this point.
I agree with Leslie.
All right, so I will go #1, the bond, #1, the steeple, #2, the historic windows, #3, historic reserves, and #3, the library marker. And the historic reserves, can be adjusted as necessary.
Can we do windows and reserves #2 and just list windows first? And then library marker #3?
Would that be 1.5 then?
I was just hoping to get like a priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. So I didn't want to make the listing order is important. I just wanted to let them know. So I'm not sure, Amanda, that's the approach.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of 1, 2, 3, I would since typically you wouldn't expect things to be, I would maybe say high, medium, and low or something like that.
Okay.
I think that's essentially what you're trying to accomplish anyway, and it's.
I like that idea a lot. Okay. So high is White Cliffs bond and the steeple. Medium is the society windows, and low is the historic reserves, and the library marker. That seemed to what we worked out here.
I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
So you'll
Yep.
see that as an email that I'll copy Leslie on. Well, I'll copy everybody, but it'll go to also to John Campbell and to Laurie, who really run the CPC part of the organization. I knew this would take a while. I appreciate this is what we volunteered to do, I guess. All right. Are we done with this topic? I hope so.
Norm, I didn't know they made napkins with lines on them like that.
No, that's actually paper with lines on it. See how I stayed in the lines? I learned that in grammar school. Those nuns taught us how to stay between the lines. All right. There was only a couple of small other topics I think we can get through very quickly.
We have to approve the minutes too.
Yeah. Why don't we do the meeting minutes now? Thanks, Bob. Has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes?
I have.
Yes.
If everybody's read it, are there any comments or corrections to the meeting minutes?
No.
No,
I have none.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from last month? On October,
What's the date? Yeah.
October, yeah.
October 11th.
11th.
October 11th. A motion for October 11th, accepting those meeting minutes. Do I hear a
I move to accept the minutes of October 11th.
second?
Second,
Brian Smith. All right, so we'll do the routine. Mr. Smith?
I agree.
All right, Leslie,
I agree too.
Bob,
Agree.
Brian,
Agree.
and I agree. So we'll get that one done. Cross that off. The only thing I want to talk about on the historic preservation plan is take a hard look at it and see what we have for small projects that, you know, we can all take upon ourselves to work on. I know Amanda's already started looking into the schools to see if there's something with, was it the middle school? No, it was a grammar school, right,
It's the
Amanda?
grammar schools, yeah.
So Amanda's starting to make, she had some interest in working with the school her daughter's at, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna work with all of them, actually.
Oh, even better.
I've reached out to 3 out of the 4, I think, so far. And everybody, all the principals so far have been interested.
Very good. Keep us informed how that's going. But I think that if you look through the plan, there's a lot of little things that we could probably pick at on our own or team up with someone to help do it. And just move these little projects along slowly but surely. That's all I wanted to say about the plan. Committee updates. White Cliffs, just in a nutshell. So 10 companies walked through White Cliffs 2 weeks ago that are interested in working with the town. We have no idea what their proposals are going to be, but several of them were keen in the building, very keen on the property, and the town administrator expects several proposals. The due date is December 8th, so keep an eye on that day. That's when they get opened. So hopefully there's some interest in some really very creative ideas for the property. I got a chance to finally walk through it, and so did Julianne walk through it later in the day. I'm here to tell you the inside of the building is gorgeous as ever. I was afraid it was going to be
Yeah, I
falling.
saw that article. Those were current photos?
Those were current photos from 2 weeks
I
ago.
was shocked. I was like, wow, because I just had a feeling it was really decayed. Those
There's a lot
photos
of-
were amazing.
There's misinformation floating around out there. I spoke to someone, I just happened to be speaking with someone I know yesterday, and he said, yeah, what's going on with White Cliffs? I hear the inside's falling apart. I said, you don't have a good source of information.
That's
Laura
good to hear.
Payne's article was perfect timing, because it's also a third party that's saying it, not members of the
Not us.
committee. Or
Oh, okay.
So, so that was good news. So that's what that is. We'll know more December 8th.
I remember
Um,
going there when it was actually a restaurant. I was living in Arlington, working at Digital in Marlboro, and we had a project at UMass. It wasn't even UMass Memorial. It was at UMass Hospital, and knew we were going to have a really long night. And we were driving through town. I said, this is an interesting looking place. Why don't we just stop and have a nice meal before we knew we were going to have a crazy night? And we went to White Cliffs, And that photo, when I saw in the article, was like, that's exactly what I remember walking in that front door was
Yeah.
it's just amazing staircase and the wood and everything. So
It left me with a
like,
good feeling. I was pretty nervous
Yeah.
going in.
it was like 1983, I think, 82 or 83.
Yeah, I ate there at a restaurant when we first moved to town, when we were moved in '85. And I'm sure Amanda's been in there a ton of times.
I have only been in there once for a wedding. It wasn't
Really?
a restaurant when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah.
It was strictly a function hall. So
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
good news
I've
there.
worked in it there too. I've been to it. Do you ever go there, Norm, for Norton or St. Cobain?
No,
to-
never for them. I've been there for a variety of things, but by that time I'd left the company. So yeah, they were a good sponsor. Too bad they can't loosen up their purse strings, but that's okay. So Master Plan Implementation Committee, Millie wasn't able to join us, but I had a actually I had a video conference with one of the contractors for the historic topics regarding downtown. So they are moving ahead with this downtown feasibility study. I think I got the words right on that. So I spoke with Mr. Swanson. Have your pen ready, because I can't pronounce this name. So it's a Mr. Archambault, ARCHAMBAULT. He's actually located in Alexandria, Virginia. So I talked to him a bit, and he came up for a walkthrough of the town. So he's probably interested in our interest from a historical perspective. And the final thing is Community Preservation Commission. Next meeting is December 1st, and it's a face-to-face meeting. So I'll be there for the projects that we're supporting. And Leslie will be there to represent us, and Millie will be there partially to represent us, but she's planning board, right? Yeah, she's the planning board rep.
Yeah.
My chimney that we have requested last month is gone, came down yesterday. It's all fixed.
Oh, wow.
So drive by, you won't see the dilapidated chimney in the back.
I've been wondering. I keep driving by and it's still there. So
It's
to go
gone.
this
It
weekend.
takes a while. Got it in just before it snowed. I'm kind of thinking about the next meeting in December being face-to-face. We haven't done it for about 3 months. And if that's the case, we can easily do I should look at it now because with the holidays. So first thing is, would face-to-face be acceptable? Because that's always a question. And
I think it would be nice if we weren't stuffed in the kitchen.
right, I will ask to get the large room we're in before, the Board of Selectmen's meeting room or the planning board. If I cannot get those rooms, then I will go video. So we have a large room.
that's good.
And probably, I don't want it, the 21st is the week before Christmas. I don't think we want to do that. So maybe the 14th, which is the week before.
Yeah, that works.
So first thing I have to do is find out if there's a room available on the 14th. If not, then see if we can have some support like we're having tonight from Becca.
Yeah, the 14th would work for me.
All right, so we'll do it as a tentative and I'll let you know how that fits. Anybody have anything else they want to mention
So we're
tonight?
moving it to the 14th no matter what, just depending on where.
The 14th, well,
Okay.
if I can't find a room and I can't find anybody for video, it won't be on the 14th. So
Okay, all right.
if
I'll leave it
not,
on the
it's a
21st for now.
tentative date until I can fix the. fix
I'll
it
leave it
all
on the
up.
21st.
Yeah, I don't want to do the 21st. Nobody wants to do 21st. You're going someplace good, I guess. You said you're leaving on the 21st, Leslie?
No, I said I'll leave it on the, I'll leave it
Oh,
on my
I'm
calendar
sorry.
on the 21st until,
All right. Thank you. I knew it would be a longer meeting tonight. Hopefully, we don't have them very regularly. But we can still just look at each other, or if we want to move along and shut this thing down, somebody has to make a motion.
Move that we adjourn.
And I have a second for that.
Second.
Ryan Smith was second. All right, do the roll call. Mr. Smith, you want to go home?
Yes.
Well, yes, you are home. Bob,
Yes.
Yes.
all right. Leslie.
Sure.
All right, Amanda, no,
Not yet.
you can stay
Maybe
on it.
next month.
Brian
Yes.
Swanson. And I say we're done.